Grandpa was a simple farmer and fisherman. His father was a Spaniard, and his mother a Choctaw Indian. Overalls with large pockets and a tattered hat were his favorite attire. Camping, fishing, catfish fries, and banjo picking were his pastimes. Enjoying nature was where he felt closer to God, he would say to Grandma's dismay, not sitting in a church pew. He was a happy man who could be heard whistling a tune. He bought coats and shoes for the children of an impoverished neighbor, even though he did not have a lot of money himself. He was what you would call the salt of the earth. 5 of their 6 children had been born on an Oklahoma Indian reservation where his mother lived. After their children were grown, they traveled from Arkansas to Humble, Texas in a covered wagon where Grandpa continued to farm a strip of land. He raised pigs and chickens. An elderly couple lived next door who had spent their younger years in missionary work overseas. Mr. Olin was now very old and frail. He had days where he wandered out of their fenced yard and down the street. He was going home, he would say. An alarmed Mrs. Olin would retrieve and scold him. Fortunately, Mr. Olin had his good days because he had an unusual skill called phrenology he had learned while overseas. One morning, after Mr. Olin's state of mind was carefully determined by interrogating Mrs. Olin over the fence, Grandpa bore our little brother, Troy, before him. The old man moved his wrinkled and bony hands upon the 2-year-old's head, feeling its structure and shape. Finally, he declared that there was a boy who would be a preacher or a musician. Grandpa was pleased with having another musician in the family, and a preacher was respectable, too. Meanwhile, I had been instructed to remain in my grandparents' yard. My grandfather returned carrying my little brother on his shoulders. As he placed Troy on the ground, I begged him to take me to the old man so he could tell what I would be. Grandpa refused, citing that I was a girl. You see, there weren't many jobs for women in those days. He said I could be a secretary or a nurse. I instinctively knew that I didn't want to be a nurse. I wouldn't like that, I said, and I don't want to be a secretary either. Miffed, I desperately searched my mind for what I would be. That's okay, I know what I'm going to be. It's kind of like a secretary because I'll do this, moving my fingers as if to type. But it's not a secretary. Oh, I can't think of what it's called because it hasn't been invented yet. Surprised, Grandpa said, "What did you just say? Say that again." I'm going to do this, again holding my hands out to type, but I can't think of the name of it because it hasn't been invented yet. The name seemed to be just on the tip of my tongue, yet eluded and frustrated me. For those of you born with an iPad or tablet in your hand, personal computers didn't become mainstream until the early 1990s. It's possible that I was having a pre-life memory. I already knew that I would be a computer operator. I would later become a nurse, which I didn't like because it was too stressful for me as an intuitive empath. Grandpa began calling out to Grandma, "Nora, come here, come here." Grandma hurried out of the house, wiping her hands on her apron. "What is it?" she asked. Grandpa said, "Tell her what you just said." When I repeated it, he shook his head at me in wonder, saying, "She's a strange child." Nodding, Grandma heartedly agreed. "She sure is." Wiping her hands on her apron again, she added, "She's a lot like her mother. Erlene is like that, you know." It made me very happy to be compared to my mother. In his teens and early 20s, Troy was indeed religious and became an accomplished musician and songwriter. As I had said, we children were sorely neglected. In the summer, we could become extremely dirty, rings of dirt collected on our sweaty necks in what are affectionately called grandma beads. One day I stood in the hall wondering why the skin on my under forearms were blackish. Examining it, I began rubbing the dirt off my forearm. Just then, a gray being popped onto the scene. He also wanted to know what it was. "It's dirt," I told him. "We don't have anyone to tell us to take a bath." Soon our father brought home our new stepmother. She was a big woman who already had 2 children. She kept us clean. She ironed our clothes. She cooked big meals. She even took us to Sunday school every week, all dressed up in our Sunday best. My little blonde-headed stepsister was a funny-looking thing with curly white hair so thin you could see her pale, paper-thin scalp. One morning, I had been told to get up, but I wanted to lay there a few minutes. My stepsister started pestering me, and then jumped on my chest with her knees. Instead of my stepmother getting on to her daughter, they both were blaming me. I got terribly upset and went out on the front porch thinking, I am such a bad person. In fact, I am so bad something terrible will probably happen on my birthday. Somebody will probably die on my birthday, which is April the 8th. Then I had the thought, no, I am not the bad one, they are. Someone will probably die on my stepsister's birthday. Somebody will probably die on April the 28th. Unfortunately, that is the day my brother Roy died. It's such a strange coincidence, or was it? Were the Greys listening? That isn't as far-fetched as it may seem. You see, the Greys would be on the scene at Roy's death and had visited me the night before. They already knew the exact day and time he would die. There are things that suggest that the Greys can also see a person's entire life. The Greys showed footage of things that happened far in the past, including the crucifixion of Christ. The CIA and military have a project called Looking Glass. According to testimony, the technology came from ancient Sumerian scrolls, and most of us know how accurate the show The Simpsons is. Hollywood movies also seem to be showing us remarkable events from the future.